we're honored today to be able to discuss this topic with two amazing experts, Scott Bryan and Michael Pekarski from Arraya. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our experts.
Sure, thank you. Hey, this is Mike Pekarski. I'll be running through this with you guys. I am from Arraya Solutions, and we are a full-service IT shop servicing the Northeast. I'll let Scott introduce himself as well.
Hey team, nice to meet you all. My name is Scott Bryan. I'm the practice director here at Arraya. It's nice to meet you and look forward to talking to you today.
So deepfakes, AI are pretty big in the headlines at the moment. They're being used in new, novel ways. One of those ways is malicious, right? Whether that's creating convincing images, audio, video, we're seeing an increased prevalence of activity there. I know that we get a lot of questions about it. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions about it. There's a pretty low cost barrier to entry. So if you want to roll your own, just a typical gaming PC or laptop, you can probably use some of the open source software we have here. There's two big ones, the Deepface Lab and the Koki TTS. One is for doing deepfakes of faces, and the other one is for audio. There's a ton of projects out there, and as fun as they are to play with, everybody has access to them, including the bad guys, so they are being used in nefarious ways. There's also paid for platforms that make it even more seamless. You don't have to design and build anything on your own. There's a ton of attack vectors. So I'm going to show you a sample real fast of what 5 minutes and $11 will get you. So to build this, we just pulled down a 30-second clip of audio and signed up for an account on 11 Labs, duplicated a voice and entered some text. So the longest thing really was figuring out what the text was. I'll just play that for you guys. Get this.
I just want to say that this audio took about 5 minutes to make. Honestly, the hardest part was deciding what to make me say. Anywho, this is just a taste of what's possible. And remember, we're in the early stages of this stuff. It's already hard to tell what's real and what's not, what's true and what isn't. Technologies like these could make things much harder for us going forward, while making the focus on our security controls, training, and awareness all that much more important.
So just hearing that clip, I mean, that's, if you don't know, that's Elon Musk's voice. Like I said, we took 30 seconds of audio from a clip of YouTube to do that. And you might be thinking, what can you do with that? Is that actionable in any way? One of the big recent headlines here, this is from a couple of weeks ago, actually. There was a $25 million nefarious transfer done through similar technology over a call. Somebody playing as a CFO of an organization and talk somebody into transferring out $25 million in a Hong Kong organization. You know, I think we've all been burdened by the robocalls, and it's kind of a meme at this point how annoying they are. They're not necessarily believable, but if they didn't work, they wouldn't still be happening. And if we, you know, with increased confidence from things like that, with these ability to clone somebody's voice or real-time deep fake their face on a video call, the threat is even more real. And as these tools become more and more prevalent, it'll be harder and harder to verify what's real. And that's where we kind of, even though these things can be kind of scary, we fall back to our traditional security protocols. If somebody sends you a text message asking to send money to them, you might want to call, make sure it's the real person, see them in person before opening up the pocket strings. It's the same order of business here. If something seems weird, it probably is, and you should go and verify with the correct personnel. So just looking at this article, I was pulling it together for this presentation, and I noticed in the bottom right, the story if we zoom in on that, CISA was compromised 2 weeks ago. And if you know, when we compare ourselves, a lot of people we talk to a lot of customers, we ask what their security concerns are. A lot of people say, yeah, we're good. We have the right things in place. CISA has a budget of almost $3 billion for 2023, and they got affected. So I think everybody, it just is a reminder that everybody is susceptible. And in their case, it was Avanti that led to them being compromised. So I wanted to show another example. So I showed you guys the audio. One of the things that was kind of mind-blowing recently, if you were following, there was a World Economic Forum speech given recently, and it was given in Spanish by a pretty prevalent politician. Regardless of content, a AI startup did a real-time translation in his own voice from Spanish to English. And I just want to show you quick little clips of the before and after. So the original looks like this.
Buenas tardes. Muchas gracias. Hoy estoy acá para decirles que Occidente está en peligro. Está en peligro porque aquellos que supuestamente deben defenderlo.
And the translated version, if you pay attention, everything is done in his own voice in English, and the video of his mouth follows along as well.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Today, I am present to inform you that the Western world is facing a significant threat. It is in danger because those who are supposed to defend the values of the Western world.
So I think a lot of us, when we hear about the deepfake things, when we hear about people getting scammed, we think not us. But I think it's becomes more convincing just how susceptible we are when we look at some of the FTC fraud statistics. Just last year, 10 billion reported lost. Just investment scams alone were 4.6 billion. Key things to show, I think, are social media is the highest overall loss, $1.4 billion. And when we could see the uptick if we look, it was 9 billion in 2022. I think that number will continue to grow at a greater rate as we're more connected, able to reach each other on social media. With these new technologies, it's even more convincing. It's not just some chat bot. They can now speak with personality, with video, with audio, and voices that you trust. And this affects not just our businesses, but us personally. And this kind of next story outlines that as well. And this one is from last year. So we're not even into the technology we have right now. Things are evolving faster than we can even keep up with. But this was a story of a mother who got a call that was purporting to be her daughter being held for ransom. They used that to get a ransom from her. What's out there now is there's a ton of open source projects. Like I was saying, everything's changing so fast. But if you remember the old voice changers, I mean, we could do that now in software, in AI, with the cloned voices, right? It's not just simply a matter of I can type in text and make it say that. With a pretty good response time or pretty good delay, 200 milliseconds, a fifth of a second, we can convert our own voices into the voice of somebody that the target may know. Some of the technologies I already showed you guys, the 11 Labs and HeyGen, they could be used as well. There are real-time video kind of hacks that work. One of the barriers to entry right now is render time if you want to change a video, that type of thing. But if you think of kind of like a Snapchat filter, there are kind of hacks that work in a similar way that don't require as intensive compute. that are being leveraged for attack as well. And it all goes back to what I was saying before, the old method of verifying when we get something seems suspicious. There's always going to be a sense of urgency. We need to pause and verify that this is real.
Yeah, Mike, and to interject here too, I think a key point about, your comment about fraud increasing, right, is what we're seeing, and what a lot of these examples, show you, is that the access to AI for the greater population of the internet just opens up the ability to scale these scams that have existed now forever on the internet, to scale them in rapid time, right? And also, now the impact of, let's say, using a foreign call center to drive one of your scams, you can kind of mitigate that by using this AI to provide accent regulation and provide proper English, et cetera, to these foreign call centers to drive these scams even further.
Cool. Thank you. So I have two more other sections I wanted to touch on real quick. Spoofing assets. Probably all heard of the term external attack surface, anything that's internet facing, right? We're all affected by it. I know one of the most common things that all security departments, IT departments deal with are spam and little scams. So I wanted to show an example here of why some of the kind of zero trust mentality is important. This is just an open source project I used to set up this demonstration here. And if you look in the address bar here, it's www.linkedin.com. And then a domain I own and control. So in Safari and in Firefox, there is no alert. It's also secured with SSL. There's a certificate securing it. So unless you're looking for that in those and you're using those two browsers, you will not be alerted that this is a malicious site. And if you're running quick, you click the link, put in your username and password. It actually acts as a proxy. The address does not change. You stay on there. It will log you into LinkedIn. This will work for any website. It can work for 365, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. The important thing to note here is that because the whole request is being proxied in, if you have MFA set up and you're running through a suspicious link like this, it can also capture your MFA code as well. And once that session is established, that will show up for the attacker as well. They can steal that session. So imagine you're logging into 365 through a malicious portal like this. Once you put in that MFA code, that attacker can now take over that session, and any permissions you have, they can take advantage of. There are things that can be put in place. So this mainly works for the simple one-time code. You get that 6-digit code, one-time code MFA. But for challenge response MFA, where a code shows up on the screen, you have to enter it in. Typically, that's tied into an SSO system that forces a redirect and checks that the address on the page is the right address. And then the other part there is implementing zero trust. So it might log you in, but then when you go to do elevated actions, so on and so forth, that the user wasn't expecting, it'll force them to authenticate again. So that's why it kind of in practice, I wanted to demonstrate why some of those zero trust principles were so important. And another part of spoofing are internet-facing assets that I think goes overlooked pretty commonly are subdomain takeovers. I'm just going to explain this as quick and dirty as I can. Everything uses DNS to point to everything on the internet. You have a domain name, it points to some address. There's different types of records. Some of them point to an IP address, some of them point to another name. So you can see I did this for Arraya solutions. I just pulled up all of the names that some open source databases know about us and ran them through to verify which ones are alive. And I'll show you on the next slide here. The ones I looked specifically for the ones that point to another name, and I just wanted to show as an example here. So we have info.arrayasolutions points to this name, MKTO We have other ones down here that points to arrayasolutions.actionservice.com. They can point to any name. Common scenarios here are things like if you have a company blog and your blog might be arraya.wordpress.com, and you have WordPress or blog.arrayasolutions point there. If you fail to pay your WordPress or you stop using that platform, but you never delete this record, an attacker can find that these DNS records point to a name out there that they can then go register this. They can go register arrayasolutions.actionservice.com. They can sign up for Action Service and get the name Arraya Solutions. And now marketing.arrayasolutions.com points to a resource that we don't control, that the attacker controls. So this is a part of kind of regular maintenance and auditing that we should be auditing what's in our DNS zones. And when we cancel services, make sure that we clean that part up and then just proactively make sure we're cleaning up our old DNS records. These things are landmines and it's a reputational risk if we have something pointing with our name out there on the internet that people can use to impersonate us, drive scams through, force SEO to get their code out, that type of thing. And the last part here, I just wanted to show some of the changes in hacking hardware, purpose-built devices. There's been an increase in them. One that has kind of made the news that a lot of you are probably familiar with is the Flipper. It's a portable, kind of like Swiss Army knife type of device for all kinds of different pen testing techniques. One of the big things it's used for is RFID cloning. So everybody that still goes into an office maybe has a badge that they use to badge in. It can be used to clone those badges and replay them. There's also ways to expand it, talk through various protocols. You can use it. There's expansion boards to make it use wireless, so on and so forth. Comparing this to kind of the older technology, this thing's about the size of a lighter. Compare this to older technology for the kind of the people that have been around for a little while. The old Proxmarks was kind of the way to do it. This is about the size of a 45 record. So the only way to really pull off stealing badges was to have this set up to listen, throw it into a bag and kind of bump into somebody. It was kind of kludgy. It worked if that was what you were good at, but something this small you can just have in your pocket and being standing next to somebody to clone their badge. There's all kinds of other things. I'll show a couple examples here real quick of our trusty colleague, Keith, just showing that, hey, badge works to unlock the door. Cool. And then just showing how simple it is to clone the badge. It just sets it to listen. Pretty quiet. You could set it to listen, stick it in your pocket, walk next to somebody with the badge, and then set it to replay when you get to the door. Save it for later. It sounds simple, but things like that, especially now when our offices are not attended as much, we want to make sure that we are keeping those. If you're not going into the office all the time, do you really need to keep your badge on you all the time and make yourself a target and expose yourself to those threats, that type of thing? There are some other things that can be done with Flipper Zero. So this is very recent, March 8th, this came out, a proof of concept. It can be done with other tools as well. It's just kind of relevant to the Flipper. The long story short is Teslas give you the ability to create a mobile key in the Tesla app on your phone. And the Flipper is able to set up a Wi-Fi hotspot that looks like it's your car's hotspot. You connect to it, log into your Tesla account, and it does just like I showed you before with stealing the MFA. It'll steal that MFA code, steal the session, and then the attacker can then log in from their phone and set up a new mobile key on their phone, go and steal your car. So this was just published. Like I said, it can be done with other tools, but this Flipper, it's like $150, pretty low barrier to entry, pretty versatile piece of equipment. Some of the other kind of prevalent tools are, these OMG cables. It looks it's the exact same form factor as a regular charging cable you're accustomed to. But inside, you can see the little X-ray here. There's a little chip. It can read all the keystrokes, inject keystrokes. It opens up a Wi-Fi hotspot so you can connect to it, use it as a back door. So, there's just a lot of these things out there. Most of the audience using them are professional pen testers or kind of nerds like myself, but, they can be used maliciously as well. And I just wanted to show one other piece and then we'll wrap here. And that is kind of the gray hat, black market devices. There's a lot of purpose-built devices that have been making headlines. On the left is something for stealing car keys. It works for older cars. But on the right, this is a purpose-built device that was used to target Toyotas. I'm just going to start the video and talk over it. So this is sped up, but it took a total of 2 minutes. General gist, any Toyotas made in the last couple of years had a flaw inside their headlight that exposed the CAN network. It's a car control area network for the car. You could plug this in. This is a purpose-built device. I think they were a couple $100s. You plug it in, turn it on, and it will unlock the car, start the car, and you get in and drive away. And it looks like a JBL speaker, so if you get pulled over, you're good. There's been a lot of Toyotas being stolen as a result of this flaw, and there are people out there taking advantage of that and selling purpose-built devices, and that's just one of these examples of these type pieces of hardware.
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care.